we'd be good in a second. We'll get it going. All good.
Good to go, Mike.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. All right, everyone, welcome this evening. If there are anyone for public comment, we do have the sign-in sheet over there. I know you're going to be speaking on behalf with Mr. McKinnon, so don't sweat that. Otherwise, we do have the public sign-in sheet. I would like to call this Wednesday, August 21st, 2024, regular school committee meeting to order. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Flag is over Megan's shoulder. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic with which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Just have a moment of silence and reflection. Thank you all. All right, because we were down a couple members last meeting, I will ask for a motion to remove item 2.1 from the consent agenda. Myself, Megan, and Michael will be able to vote on that, approve that, and then we can approve the consent agenda as it remains, items 2.2 through 2.5. Do I have a motion to extract item 2.1?
So moved.
Second.
Excellent. All in favor? Aye. All right. Item 2.1, myself, Megan, and Michael. Do you have any questions about the minutes from July? I will ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion that we approve the minutes.
Excellent.
Second.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. The minutes from the July 10th meeting are approved. Do I have a motion to approve the remaining items 2.2 through 2.5 of the consent agenda?
I move to approve items 2.2 through 2.5 of the consent agenda. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. Do we have anyone in the audience? I know Ms. Fleischer just walked in and I see Ms. Rocha. Did either of you want to make a public comment this evening? Mr. Lord? No? All right. Excellent. And then right into the spotlight, Principal McKinnon.
We're going to start at first. We're going to go to 4.2 if that's.
Absolutely, no problem at all.
Jessica Higgins, our fifth grade science and math teacher, who is here to talk about her experience on the Teachers at Sea. Is that what it was called?
Yes.
Teachers at Sea.
Teachers at Sea, Teachers at Sea, put on by URI on the graduate school of oceanography. There we go. All right.
Yeah.
So basically, the ship is always working. The crew lives on the ship. Everything's moving all the time. Safety is a first. If you click that top image, there's a little video to give you an idea of what it's like.
Yeah.
It's just an Instagram post that they put out. Okay. It's just to show and illustrate that all the science that they do on the ship, how everyone's a working part of that puzzle to keep everything flowing, everything safe, no matter what the weather. It's a very fast-paced dynamic, no matter what the environment is. Even for us, it being pretty calm, just watching them busy about the ship, constantly moving and asking us to help tow the lines and, stow the gear, so on and so forth. It was quite an experience. Next slide, please. So the Endeavor is an 185-foot research vessel, and it's been in service for the last just about 50 years. There's 4 floors. The bottom level is where we all slept, and the crew sleeps down there as well. The second level, it's called the main deck. That has the main lab, the mess, the library, also access to the bedroom. So that floor is constantly busy, shuttling individuals in and out. The next level up is the O1. And, and that's, the captain's quarters and also the helm. And last is the fourth level up, it's the O2 deck, and that's the observation tower. The staterooms are all double done. The library has all the media, and the media service, as far as movies and TV, we could watch that all the time, all the creature comforts. We had a Starlink satellite internet connection, so that came in handy come Friday. I don't know if your son came home and mentioned that I did get to Google Meet with the kids Friday afternoon. They saw like real live action of us trying to get actually the sample down into the water, which was pretty cool. There's 3 meals a day. It feels like a 5-star restaurant. The chef's amazing. There's always snacks available. Water, you can shower. There's no restrictions on the water. However, they do ask that you kind of conserve, because whatever they store from being docked up is what we're using, other than desalination throughout the trip, which I thought was really cool. I was part of the science party, and the science party was led by Professor David Smith from URI. There was actually only 5 Rhode Island teachers this time. Usually there is a set of 12. This particular trip got weathered out 2 times before I got to go in June. The first 2 times were in the fall. There were 2 URI students, 1 grad and 1 undergrad student. There was a photographer, and we also had the executive director of the Educational Passages, which is the mini program, and I will get into that in a little bit because it's a pretty cool extension that we may be interested in boosting here. All of us exchanged our classrooms in the offices for the wide open ocean to get our hands-on experience conducting ocean research and helping the crew and technicians on the endeavor. We departed on Friday at 9 o'clock in the morning from the Narragansett Pier. Our first stop was the Mud Hole, which is just south of Block Island. At the Mud Hole, the depth there is roughly 60 meters. This was our first science stop. This is where we collected sediment samples from the ocean floor with the multi-core sampler. We also collected and analyzed the water with the CTD, conductivity, temperature, and depth unit. And we studied organisms that we trawled under the microscope. The multi-core sampler, this was housed at the back of the ship, and they actually had a crane that us teachers had to learn how to flip the levers for to get that off the ship and into the ocean and then down to the bottom, to the floor. Then coming up after it sampled about 18 inches of sediment from the bottom. That's those tubes over there. The sampler came back up, and then Professor Smith unhooked them and set them up on that side of the ship over there for us to analyze. And then this is the CTD unit. Again, we're all hands-on. That's myself, that's a grad student, and that's one of the technicians in that picture. We're connecting the sensors to each of the pods and then closing the top and bottom. And then once they get down to the specific calibrated levels of the ocean, then they open up and they close and take that sample all the way back to the surface for us to analyze.
Cool.
This is a special little thing where I brought the 5th grade students into. Can you guess what's going on in this picture? So there's a picture of 2 cups. However, originally they were 2 16-ounce styrofoam cups. So at 60 meters, that 16-ounce cup shrunk down to, up to the left.
Really?
I brought it back to the students, and then we were taking a look at what pressure does, in this particular case, to start compressing the oxygen, bubbles that are in, or the air bubbles that are in the styrofoam, compressing them out into the lungs. Now, next slide. Oh, okay. We stopped off at the wind farm, right off of Block Island. I did have some questions to pose to Professor from fifth grade students, if they wanted to know what the effects of the windmills have on the ecosystem and the food web. Specifically, they asked those questions specifically because the fifth grade curriculum were all about the food web, how the interworkings of the interchanging parts of decomposers and producers and consumers and how they all work together to keep that life cycle going. So inevitably, I thought there would be like this grand, like, I can come back with all this information for them. It is inconclusive. They still haven't gathered enough information yet, enough data. It's too brand new. But the hopes of this whole program is to be similar, obviously the energy that it will make, but the structures in the ocean are hoped to be similar to the oil rigs off of the Gulf Coast, where they will be getting reefs for migratory species to stop and gather around the structure, right? Like striper or sea bass, where they habitat around that structure, and then it would be a place where the fishing industry would thrive. But again, we're still waiting for the real data. Day 2, this was Saturday. It was actually Wednesday, and we didn't know that till we were out there. We spotted wildlife. The crazy thing, I had never seen a basking shark. I didn't even know that was such a feature. I thought it was a whale, so I'm like, whale over here. And the rest of them didn't catch it. It only breached once and then went down and then came back up. And so some of the crew on board said, well, if it only breaches once, that tells us that it's a basking shark and not a whale. So that was pretty cool. There were also a huge pod of dolphin that came up and visited us. And it's been by the boat for a while. So that was really cool. I didn't ever get to see a whale. That was my goal. But the basking shark was really cool.
Wonderful.
Later, day 2, again, we did the same sampling and experiments. This time, so we traveled due south 100 miles, and that brings us to the edge of the continental shelf. Basically, the Hudson River Canyon, where it drops off down to 2,500 meters. And the ship stopped there, so we could do these experiments all over again. We had the CTD, we had the core sampler go down, and I connected 2 large bags of those 16-ounce cups. That the students all decorated. And so from the classroom to back down to 2480 meters, roughly 2,500 meters down to the bottom and back. The pressure.
Yikes.
Wow. That's awesome.
What a great visual.
Shrunk it and condensed it enough where it's not, the soft foam anymore. It's
Amazing.
like plastic.
That's wicked cool.
It's really cool.
That's exciting. To a shot class, 2,400 meters.
Some of the other results, other than the awesome cups, which we separately
Oh, that's wild.
was, so looking at the samples from the trial under the microscope. I pulled up some crustaceans, which was really cool. They were thinking it was next. And so from 2,400 meters down, Professor called it ancient mud. Basis, the cool tie-in to the 5th grade curriculum here is that we talk about decomposers. We have these worms, we keep them in the classroom. So it was cool to see that, yes, there is even decomposers at the bottom of the ocean. There were evidence of it not only in the 16 years we actually found some worms, but at this level, there was the worm casts left, and there was not only the grinders that we call in class, but there was also the bacteria, which are the finishers. That water sample off to the right, of course the mud was on the bottom, but the water on the top, we actually syringed out, and on the side we took that water sample, and we were checking to see, well, is there bacteria? This particular grad student in the middle, her whole thesis was on growing bacteria. So she had samples from the surface, from the chlorophyll max zone, which is where in the graph and the data that they showed us on the ship, it was where the most plankton, the most life was, the microscopic life was showing. And which was funny because that's 21 meters down. It's not where you expect at the top where you have the most exposure from the sun to be able to grow those producers. And then lastly, the sample came from the floor. And if you, to the next slide, we took those petri dishes and I brought them back to the classroom. And so the last 20 days of school, and then I've taken them from home, and I just took these pictures the other day. I'm going to send them to Professor Smith, but looking at both of them, we're looking for colonies of bacteria that are growing. Now, not the white, because that's the crystallized salt, but do you notice any little?
Couple little spots, no?
Yeah, so that's the different colonies of bacteria. I don't know which colonies, I have to send it back to him. But it would be cool to have that collaboration between our school and the grad students and see how she goes with the project. Next. So I was mentioning the chlorophyll max area. If you look at that graph off to the right, that bright green, and the chart how it spikes off to the right, kind of goes up to, I think that's like 60, I think it is. Anyways, that's the chlorophyll max zone where the most organisms, most life was showing up on their samples. It also had the salinity, it also had the temperature, it also had the dissolved oxygen, which is the same sampling that we do with Save the Bay when we go on our field trips. The last 3 years we've gone with them and done the same experiments with the kids, and I have documented it. It's up there next to the classroom, and you can hopefully get the rest of the data from whatever I can put it all together, so we can kind of have a running record. And then finally, the mini boat launch. This was so super cool. This was not something that we had expected out. We just thought we were going to be pulling ropes and sending things over the side and then doing those experiments. We didn't think that there was going to be anything quite as elaborate as this. This is a boat that the Dudley Middle School in Massachusetts built. They took all of last year to build it. And they were set up in the way that the program works is they get this 6-foot crate shipped to their school, and over the course of the school year, they meet once or twice a week, depending on the particular classes, geared for fifth to sixth grade age students, yet seventh and eighth grade, and maybe even third and fourth could also chime in and help. Where this particular project for them was an after-school program, but it could be something that was during an enrichment block, or it could be something that was during a specials, design class, art class. Basically, the kids worked in small groups, like a sail group, keel, hull group, and then technology package. This particular vessel had the technology package that it had a camera on board, it had the sensors for the temperature, wind direction, speed. Like I'm missing one last thing. Anyways, it took all of that information and it was connected to solar power. It was connected to the satellites, and if you go to the next slide, the kids could track their boat.
Wow.
Yeah, real time, all the time. The green squiggle way at the bottom there of the screen is where we were to drop it into the ocean, and it traveled all the way up to Nova Scotia. It was picked up a few days later from our launch, and by a fisherman. He actually still has it, and he's gonna relaunch it for them early fall, which is their sailfish season, I believe it is. And then they get to track it again.
Awesome.
It's really cool. It was like fun to see how it all worked and came together. If we are interested in it, I have all the information for it, but basically it's a STEAM program and it connects cultures worldwide. So we went ahead and we had to predict where this little boat was to finally get picked up. And we had all over from Canada all the way to England, all the way down to the Azores, picked out, and it showed up in Canada. Next. Then, so the end of day 2 was beautiful sunset, but we're full steam ahead from the 100 miles to south. It took us all the way through the night to get back to Narragansett Bay, which is the next slide. We're back. And so that was at Beaver Lighthouse, and we came on the west side of the bay. That's just the crew, that's the captain trying to park us. And they were taking the walkway and moving it so that we work. And there we go.
Huh. Oh, very well done.
To go on this, and I feel like there was a lot of collaboration, and there still is, between some of the teachers that I met on board, or I can take that back and forth between their classrooms and ours, especially with that new program as well. I have those connections now that I want to share. It was an amazing experience, and then the teacher wanted to do such a thing.
Jess, thank you very much for presenting today.
Thank you for applying.
And I know there were a couple of times where you were postponed. I think it was supposed to go out last October, and we had a storm out there, and
Yeah, October, then November,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh man, it's getting really close to Thanksgiving. I really don't get weddings out of it. I'm like cracking myself up. Do I end up like Parker, like do I need snow pants?
Yes.
I ended up in June, I couldn't have been a better time. Everything happens for a reason, so it was awesome.
thank you again
Thank
for
you.
presenting.
Yes, thank you so much.
And if I may, Jessica is our outgoing teacher of the year,
Yes.
and she did a fantastic job representing this district. And she was a finalist for State Teacher of the Year. She came very close.
Yeah.
So proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all you do, putting yourself out there, bringing it back to the kids. It's really important that teachers like yourself take these chances and go on these
Right.
journeys and these adventures and can share it with the students and really unlock their minds to see what's possible out there. So really cool.
In some ways too, Jess and Miss Devlin, but they take the 5th grade group kind of like a smaller version of what you did.
Save the Bay.
Out into the bay,
Mhm.
go through Save the Bay down in Providence.
It's a perfect finale for our curriculum. Actually, it's gonna end up being
In the fall.
the end of the first trimester.
Right.
And then, yeah, that's all. But then just moving it forward, if we can keep that collaboration, we can add and keep that learning record, it's just something for the kids to look back at. Maybe inspire other students coming up, walking by through those hallways. And, interested in oceanography, they're right here in Little Compton, right on the shore. And just having that extra edge in the ocean state.
Yeah.
What better than to show them our back door?
Yes.
Right?
I want to stay because we do have a quick video about some of our outdoor activities and excursions, and your kids are in a lot of that.
Michael had a question for you, Jessica.
So my question is that the intention was for the boat to be picked up at some point. I'm sorry, the mini boat, right?
Yes.
And it was picked up after 28 days. How long would that boat have lasted? Did they give you any indication? How long?
I mean, they were hoping that it actually got all the way over to Europe. So it really all depends on the currents. It depends on, it is wooden, it is sealed with anti-fouling paint. It does have that waterproof seal and everything for the electronics. It actually sits within the hull.
Which with modern solar panels and electronics, that thing could stay
Yeah,
powered
they had
indefinitely.
that, sealant. It really comes to, so the kids are building it all. So it comes down to how well the teacher, like say myself, learning the whole program. It's just the facilitator. The kids are doing everything, just jumping on, just as if it was a science class. So it's parts of it fails, and it's also what can we learn from that? Just like in the end science experiment. This particular boat is in and those websites I have, if you wanted to share it with them, you're welcome to. Because those links, through one of those links you can actually track. This is the second voyage of Venia. The first time they sent it out, it was off of the Endeavor, and it went, and I think it was out a week, and they picked it up off of Falmouth. So we brought it back out. The students were like, "Please just get up to the ocean," and it did. My colleagues on the ship, most of them placed the spot that the boat would be picked up again, like was Europe or Africa or Azores. I actually picked New Zealand. Canada. Exactly. It's like I can show you the sheet. From where I picked it actually lived. So, the woman director, she kept me every now and again. She's like, "So do you want to make this one too?"
Nailed it, Jess.
No. But yeah, it was cool. It was a very cool experience.
Awesome.
So maybe it'll be something that we want to get.
Sounds perfect for IB.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice kickoff.
Sign class in the art.
Perfect.
First, second.
Yeah.
Well, we have an enrichment program now. That's gonna be
Yeah,
taking place.
brand new
at
schedule.
grade level.
That would be so awesome.
Yes.
And it
new.
could be something, it doesn't have to start up like this year or whatever it is. It could be, say, a club or whatever. Maybe this first year we buddy up with Dudley School or whatever and do, or wherever maybe another ship is from. And just have that communication back and forth with the kids. Just, bouncing ideas back and forth, and I think the culture behind it all too. Options.
Really great stuff.
Hey, thank you.
You're an
Jess.
innovator. Thank you.
And I still might come.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
You are a treasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Higgins. Appreciate you.
Right.
All right,
Okay,
right back to you, Principal McKinnon.
I think it was Albert Einstein once said that play is the greatest form of research, and I couldn't agree more. We talk about, recess and outdoor activities. Just a little background, our grades K through 5 are required to be outside for recess at least 20 minutes a day. I think we pushed the envelope a little bit. It ends up being 20, 25, depending upon the day and the weather. But we're pretty good about getting them into the outdoors during the middle of the day. We rotated around the lunches. So K1, 2 are in lunch first, 3, 4, 5 is out at recess, and then we flip flop. And the K1, 2 goes outside, 3, 4, 5 come in. They get, like I said, between 20 and 25 minutes. And the nice thing about the way the schedule was built last year, and again this year, is even on rainy days or weather where it's too cold, the gym is available during that recess block. So the kids are able to move, particularly in the K through 5 time period. We offer that as, one of the opportunities for them. We also have some coloring and some games that the kids can play down here as well. Kids also have an opportunity, and this is all students, although it's not in the course of the school day, when the buses drop them off at 8 o'clock, beginning at 8 o'clock, or parents drop them off. Our students in K through 5, K through 4 are out there, and 5 through 8 is out on the basketball court side of the school. So there is time periods where they're out there. Additionally, students get a lot of movement. They'll have 2 periods a week of physical education at 50 minutes a pop. So close to 100 minutes of movement education. Our students in grades 6, 7, 8 also have an extra period of phys ed, but it's used for health purposes, to teach health. But there is that extra period that they have. As I started to look at some of the information that was out there, I think the concern is for students in grades 6 to 8. Our students in K through 5 get outside, they get the movement that they need. Our students in 6 through 8, even though it's not necessarily during the school day, a lot of those students are involved in either extracurricular activities here at school or extracurricular activities outside of the school, whether it's Tiverton Youth Soccer, Portsmouth Youth Football, Portsmouth Youth Basketball, Little Compton Recreational Basketball. 68% of those kids in 6 through 8 are involved in some sort of Wilbur McMahon School soccer, cross country, basketball, or we run track and field in the spring. We have run lacrosse in the past, but there hasn't been that interest with the students, unfortunately. But that's something that could come back. I think pre-pandemic, there was programs. My own students were involved in it as well with the lacrosse during that time. But again, the students do get a lot of movement. If it's not in physical education, it will be in some of the extracurriculars that they have. Recess is not required for students in grades 6, 7, and 8. It is required by state law, and it should be required by state law for students in grades K through 5. At the same time, I understand the importance of kids getting out there and being able to move around. And the teachers do, at times, take them out for different activities. I know Ms. McLean uses the Oasis several times a year with her class, sometimes to clean it, sometimes, to do other things out there. We haven't used it in the past couple of years, but I know the school system bought a large, I would say 20 by 15 tent.
It's 20
This
by
was
20.
post
It was
20 by 20.
20. Yeah.
That has been used. It hasn't been used yet, but they would put it out outside of our building here where we have some picnic tables. I know Mr. Tomaso has used that area in the past for some social studies or some ELA work that is out there. But we've also, as you know, Buck Hill, where our students are up in the Pasco area of Rhode Island. for 3 days outside, rain or snow. Our 5th grade students, Miss Higgins has been involved with the Save the Bay. You'll see some pictures of that. And also a trout release that took place in the Simmons Mill this past year. And the year before, it was a salmon release, but I think that was released back to Rhode Island DEM.
Right.
Our 7th graders have used the PT Marvel Preserve with the Little Compton Preservation Society. They've been going on field trips down there. And we've also had the fortunate of having a very strong historical society program here in the town where some of our middle school students have gone on brief field trips off to those areas. Dr. Mitchell has a little video that we kind of put together, highlighting some of the
I just captured some photos from our Facebook feed from the past year or so. And as Principal McKinnon said, our students in the middle school do get 100 minutes per week of visit. So they're most of the time outdoors. And so I put this together. It's just kind of cute and sweet. And
chasing coins. It's a beautiful day. Isn't it so come on, let's play.
something and threw it again. But
Again, just showing some of the outdoor activities that students are involved with. I truly believe we're so lucky where we are.
Yes.
Little Compton, that you can enjoy the outdoors, whether it's for recess, to have not just a playground, but to have a walking track and a
Dundery
probably
Brook.
4 acres of grass is certainly a privilege that our students are able to enjoy.
Absolutely.
I want to sort of highlight that.
Any other questions for Principal McKinnon? Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
so what would, if you look at all the photos that were there, a lot of it's not during the winter time, right?
Yeah.
It's all basically good weather.
Yeah.
So what opportunities can we do during the colder months that,
That's a great question. There are a lot of schools, particularly up north, that do require their students to bring, when I say up north, not northern Rhode Island, like up in the New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, where they get outside 12 months a year. Students are required to bring in the boots, the gloves, the hats, the winter parkas. That's a necessity to go outside. Now, we will go outside for recess. If it's cold, we have restrictions. If the wind chill, I think, is below 25 degrees, or the temperature is below 25, we're not supposed to be taking them out. If it's 25 degrees and the sun is out and there's very little wind, we'll push the envelope a little bit.
He does push.
But
the
making
envelope.
sure students, because believe me, you'll see them come off the bus in shorts in February, shorts and a t-shirt. Not the little guys so much, but even sometimes the little guys are not dressed, for the winter weather, particularly when it comes to hats and gloves. But for the most part, if we can get them outside and they're dressed appropriately, they're going outside.
yeah, I guess that would be my only feedback on looking at everything, as far as like during the winter time, right? Because basically they're cooped up. There's no outside soccer going on. There's no outside football going on. Those examples that you mentioned.
Yeah.
All that stuff is not really happening.
Yeah.
During the winter months.
Yeah, and again, you look at some of these schools up in, because they know they're gonna be in those winter months from November until April sometimes, so they make sure that the students bring in the stuff and they leave them in school so that they don't have to bring them home every day.
I really thought you were coming back to tell us that you were gonna give more recess time through 6 through 8 when I saw this on the agenda, to be honest with you. I thought that's where this was going.
Oh, I got you. You know what?
They go.
They get a lot of movement. Now, it may not necessarily be outside, it may not be during the school day, but really the rigors of 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I mean, preparing them for the high school, to me, is paramount. They're not gonna get that when they go to Portsmouth or to Bishop Stang or wherever they decide to go. And I know for some of the, particularly 6th graders, I think it's a difficult thing because they're used to having recess and they look forward to it.
I remember it.
But you know what, for students in 7th and 8th grade, I think they understand, these are the rigors that are upon them and they kind of accept it. I get it. You know what, they would love to get outside. And believe me when I tell you this, the teachers, if they feel as though the kids need a break, particularly if I'll use RICAS for an example, the state assessments, they're working sometimes 2.5, 3 hours on a status assessment. Teachers back off and they'll take them outside. There were times during the spring, April, May, where the teachers would take them out to walk the track for 40 minutes and then come back inside and get ready for the afternoon or get ready for lunch. It's a fine line you walk.
Thank you. Thank you, Principal McKinnon. All right, moving along, we have item 5.1, enrollment projections from Superintendent.
Yes,
Please.
thank you. You and I felt this should be an agenda item. We're discussing tonight's school committee agenda. And I don't think we've ever really unpacked the tuition program. We never really had to. It has gone from 5, I think my first year here, to we have 36 tuition students for the 2024-2025 school year.
Incredible.
That includes our little preschool and pre-K where it's half day, 3 times a week or whatever. So.
1 second. Is it possible can you enlarge that a little bit more?
There they are.
Usually, when we talk about tuition students, we usually talk about grades K through 8. So it's 36, but, less 4, so it's 32. But it was 30, I think, on Monday. So those contracts are still coming in, and we're still giving tours. The tour, if I'm on site, the tour will come by my office, and I will always put my 2 cents in. And it's clear that neighboring communities feel we have an educational experience here that's unparalleled, and families are willing to pay $6,000 to $12,000 per year. Many of our families have 2 children. And I could break that down the next time. And, we have 1 grade level with just 1 teacher, that singleton, we call that in the biz. The singleton this year is in grade 2. The singleton was in grade 1 last year. And so there's always sort of some instructional movement there, but they all seem to know the primary grade curriculum pretty well. They can slide in and out, and that's not unusual in even a big school where you have a bubble grade. So you might have 3 first grades in a big school, and then next year just have 2. And so that sort of instructional movement is quite common in the elementary grades, not so much as you go on up. So, what is accounting for the popularity of the tuition program? I mean, if we go back 10 years to its sort of conception, it was, I think, 2013, 2014, 2015. I think the exodus was maybe not an exodus, but the dip, according to NASDAQ, was about 50 kids. And so the school committee, I think about 2015, 2016, saw that enrollment was declining, that real estate valuations were rising, and emerging families were sort of being boxed out of there's no such thing as a starter home in a resort community, generally speaking. And so I don't know which school committee it was. I do know Patrick McHugh was on it, and some of their ideas were, tuition program. There is no school choice in Rhode Island. There is in Massachusetts. So they also looked at tuition price points. They landed at $6,000 because it was at the time comparable to St. Philomena's, a little bit more than Holy Trinity, on par with St. Michael's, on par with also All Saints Academy. And so, and I looked at those tuitions recently, they're pretty much the same. I think St. Phil's has gone up maybe $1,500, $2,000 since 2015. Also, what that school committee conceptualized was a way to make Wilbur McMahon, that already stood out, make it stand out even more. Would it be a blue ribbon status, which is basically on data, achievement data? Or would it be something more prestigious and more rare, that's for sure, like the International Baccalaureate? And so we're sitting here today discussing, this rise in tuition students from, a handful to now 32 K through 8, because administration works with the school committee and actuated all of these particular goals. And we have followed through with the school committee's vision, the town's vision for this school. We've become, sort of, this is the success of it, is where do we go from here? And this program belongs to the school committee, the tuition program. It was conceived by the school committee. The policy was written by the school committee with a lot of legal input. And the International Baccalaureate Middle Years program, that was also the idea of that particular school committee. And I think we owe them a debt of gratitude, because they were forward-thinking, they were innovators, and they were thinking about community. A community doesn't exist without an educational enterprise at its heart. And it takes a lot of hard work by our teachers, to bring a program like the IB into a school and to put all the work in. It's almost like they were doing two jobs the past 3 years on middle school teachers and many of our specialists. It was more work than I've ever seen any staff do. The output of our staff is incredible. Look at our student achievement data, the outcomes. We can honestly say we probably have the best staff in the state. And we've given them a lot of vision work that needed to be actualized, and that took time and energy and, prioritizing and so forth. And I think the proof is in the pudding. I always say that. The staff has worked hard. Administration has been an incredible motivator for excellence. And the parents who are visiting and touring, the effusive praise, they're always on our Facebook page. A few of the new parents commented on the summer messaging that went out, and they're just so thrilled. Our kids are coming from Westport, our tuition kiddos, from Tiverton, from Newport, from New Bedford, I think Dartmouth and Fall River. And it's just an enrichment of the community. Our students end up going to birthday parties in all these different communities, and hosting kids from the other communities in their homes. Some of our kids have made best friends, BFFs, with kids in other towns and cities. Like I said, administration, we actualize your vision. And so I think moving forward with full transparency as our numbers rise, is what I have no judgment about these numbers. I have no concerns at this time at all. But the time has come that this program is successful.
It's
Under
running
our
now,
wildest
yeah.
dreams.
Not wondering anymore.
And it is, part of the culture and part of our budget. Doesn't hurt, that's for sure. And the families that we've met through it, and the children that we've served and supported through it have truly added to the community. That is where we are. Any questions or?
If I may.
Please, Hannah.
Not a question, just I think, again, to echo what Lori has said, like, this is a true success. I mean, especially for someone, my age. I grew up here in Little Compton, and I can't stay in Little Compton unless I want to live with my parents forever, which I love them, but I don't. So, which is sad, we talk all the time. Every month I come to these meetings and I see the amazing things that we're doing for our students. And as someone, who is 20 something, might start a family, it sucks that you can't do that in the town you grew up in, right? So to have this opportunity for not only, I think, to enrich the community, as you said, Lori, but it also gives an opportunity for Little Comptoners to still send their kids to Little Compton schools if they have to, unfortunately, move out of town. I mean, I saw a listing today for $790,000. So it's
Starter home.
Yeah, it's, just crazy out there. So it's sad to see the LC residence numbers low, but I think a lot of communities are facing those problems right now with just cost of living. People aren't having as many kids anymore either. And so there's all those factors to consider, but the tuition program, I think just have to commend that previous group of leaders that.
They were visionaries.
Yeah, real
program.
foresight.
They were visionaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They put the school through its paces, and the school came through.
Absolutely. I know we're
Out of our-
going to have a conversation later. I know myself, Michael, Megan, we posed some questions. Sean's not here tonight. So we're going to have any discussion regarding what the threshold is and
Tuition rates.
tuition rates. That will be for another meeting with him.
On that.
Yeah, with him present.
actuate and actualize.
Yeah, that said, much like Lori, it's interesting when you get to sit at this table and the conversations you'll have with people that, I mean, if I'm not on the school committee, I don't think people are approaching me in the manner they are when they say that they're thinking about Wilbur McMahon, or they've spoken to somebody that has a child at Wilbur McMahon and now they're considering Wilbur McMahon. As you said, it's an added value to the community, and it's an added value to our students as they go out into other communities, to really have these experiences and these friends that come from all different walks of life, from other towns. And when you see these numbers rise, it's evident that our community has been doing the right things by funding the school, by putting the curriculum first, by saying, hey, we're all in this predicament. Birth rates are down. It's expensive everywhere. It's hard to buy a house almost anywhere. But what are we doing to differentiate ourselves and add value and enrichment to not only the students that are here, but the community as a whole? And the proof is in the pudding. I mean,
Absolutely.
the foresight that
Really
these
is.
folks had going on 10 years ago, really tremendous to see it come to fruition now. And I'm excited the direction that we're continuing to move. So Jack, Lori, everyone at this table, and certainly our families and students. And as Hannah said,
Yeah.
this can continue.
Yes.
Because we have people that want to be in this town, and if they can't be in this town, they're interested in what we're doing in this town and the academics we're providing for our students.
If I may, if we were in Massachusetts, we could flip the switch for school choice. This building would be packed.
I know.
Yeah.
And so Rhode Island does not have school choice except for the CTE pathways, the career technical education pathways for high schools. Thank goodness, there's voice and choice for high school kids. They need that. They need to have a variety of options to suit their post-high school pathway vision. And so we're not doing anything, that Westport is school choice. And so it's no different from that. It is tuition based. The money does not follow the kids, from the home district like it does in Massachusetts. But it is the next best thing for a small Rhode Island rural community. And every district is looking at enrollment. They're closing schools, they're consolidating, especially large districts. I think Boston is, closing about a third of their buildings and schools. They hired a consultant to figure out how to do that. There's so much pushback regarding the neighborhood schools that will be closing. It is a concern regarding birth rate. The study that we did pay for a few years ago does see 2025, 2026 to 2031, a steady increase. It's not anything that is earth shattering, but that complex metric about market forces, housing valuations, birth rates, median age of population, which is quite high in here. So as that lowers, more kids will, the birth rate will definitely grow. And it's, but as superintendent who's watched it grow from, I think, maybe 4 or 5 to 32, I see no downside, none whatsoever. And I hope it continues to grow. And if that's the case, we'll have to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to understand all of this. Basically, we got 3 different columns. We get the 180, 36, and the 216. Last year, we ended the year at 17, according to John's tuition, right? Tuition students was 17. Now you're predicting 36 coming to this new school year?
Oh, no, that we have 32 contracts, K-8 already signed. So it's not a prediction, it's actually happening. We have about, Mike, maybe 9 or 10 still out there.
I'm also
Coming up to the first day of school.
I was going to say, I'm going to touch on it in the Portsmouth report.
Yeah,
It is a rolling number.
yes, it is, everywhere.
That seemed to be she made that clear last night.
Resident kids.
Yeah. And in Portsmouth, it really is resident kids.
Right.
But yeah, this number will continue to fluctuate. I think that's why we get the number from you almost, I think every meeting you provide out of
Yes.
district, or at least a classroom count. I don't know if it's
Right.
certainly not as detailed as this, but
And that happened right around the same time, in the mid-teens,
Mhm.
2014 or so, or 2015, where enrollment was a part of the consent agenda. It wasn't always. It isn't in any other district I know of.
No.
Anyway. And so enrollment is always top of mind from my seat and the principal seat, and the chair seat, so for the past 8 to 10 years, that's for sure.
and I'm fairly confident I can say everyone on this committee has seen this number go from single digits.
Yes.
I mean, certainly,
Oh, just in my 4 years,
certainly
it's
Michael and
grown.
Hannah, who've been on since 20.
Mhm.
I mean, I think it was 5 or 6 when I came on in 21, so that's a single digit. And now last year at 17, I think was maybe the first or second year we had double digits. Maybe we were 11, 17, and now we're at
But
32 signed and still some in the till that could happen.
yes,
It's just really impressive.
Mr. McNamee, this is like all profit coming in for us for the most part, right? I mean, in the way that it doesn't cost us anymore to bring these students in.
No, you're basically absorbing a lot of the overhead that goes unused. So your only direct expenses would be certainly some supplies, some curriculum,
Yeah.
material, that kind of thing too. So based on some of the preliminary numbers, it looks like, we had budgeted 115.5, which is really where we're going to be at this year at the end of 24. We should be at, based on my preliminary ones, and I only had 30 in there, we'd be at 170,100. So it's about 54.6 over budget right now. That's probably going to be climbing.
Wow. Michael, you said you had another question.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up to that. So last year, when we got our reports every month, we were hovering somewhere between that 215 to 218 mark as far as our enrollment. So if the number's 32, if it's 36, or it's going to climb, whatever, I understand it's the variable, but I kind of look at this and I say to myself, well, we've almost over doubled our tuition students, right? From last year to this year, and we're still at the 216.
Yeah, because
So-
no one can move here, Michael. No one can move here.
Yeah.
So our residents are going to continue to go down until we address the housing
That's
issue.
not my point. It's like, we're missing 17 kids.
No, we're not. We have 180 plus 36 equals
So-
216.
So what was it last year?
We must have had larger grades last year, and maybe
The eighth grade was quite
very
big.
large. It
And-
graduated, and unfortunately,
Yeah. And
like
more
we have
LC residents.
discussed, we don't have that 28 kids in kindergarten coming up that Little Compton residents have, unfortunately.
I just see a double in tuition, but I see our total still at the 216, that 215 to 218 mark, which is telling me that there's a missing.
if I may, yes, Mike is right.
Yeah.
But our preschool and pre-K numbers are, really low right now. Those will probably end the year in the teens, so if you look, we have,
Preschool, they can't start until they're 3 years old.
it's rolling admissions.
Yeah, I saw.
Turn 3, they can come in the next day,
Yes.
basically.
So we won't just have 3 in the morning and then 6 in the afternoon. Those will likely double.
Mhm.
And even our incomers, we'll get some incomers, people who do move in. It does happen. I know it's rare. And we gave a tour to a family from upstate New York. They will be incomers. And so let's see, and kindergarten, we're reasonably certain that number will also rise with Little Compton residents. So we should land higher than the 216. It is early. And these are in flux.
With the exception of that New York family, to confirm what Michael's saying, the preschool numbers that come in, are those in district or are those out of district?
Both.
Yeah, it's a
Combination.
It's always been a Tiverton, Little Compton. It used to be the region that was.
Because one thing that is evident is that our LC residence is continuing to dwindle.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're being supplemented by the tuition or the out of district tuition students to get our numbers to where they are.
Only 2, see, less than half. Those are the peers. So we have peer kiddos. We didn't differentiate. between the piers there.
I just think that's a,
Yeah,
for like,
break that down next.
on council.
Well, I don't think
It totally is.
Housing trust,
100%,
just such a small.
100%.
realtors, not the school committee.
Last year's graduation.
Put me in there.
Was 22.
Right,
Um,
yours is 28,
It's 28, it's a bigger class, we picked up one, as you said.
yeah.
All right, well, listen, we're moving in the right direction. It's a good conversation. As I shared, we're going to continue to have the conversation regarding enrollment, regarding what that looks like in the future. Certainly, you're going to get back to us with, as the threshold grows, where is that number? Where we want to make sure that we're not sacrificing outcomes and services. And the stress, we want our teachers and our administrators to continue to show up and put forth an excellent performance. And what does that look like? So thank you for this enrollment statistic.
Well, our new system, Alma, makes this so easy. And we can code tuition kids in there, sort of a workaround, right? And so my office always did this in a spreadsheet. And we've also become a bursar office, which is new for me and Carolyn. Keeping track of all of the payments it could be a full-time job. It got to be quite a bit last year, but now we have it down to a science. And this program, we may automate all those hard copy processes. And so I can't say enough about our new student information system that we're rolling out. It has been so much work for our IT director and his staff, Mariah Dufour and Michael Ayotte and Joshua Gay. They have knocked it out of the park, and here it is. We can manipulate the data like no other system I've ever worked in. So, and I don't think we want to pull out peers. Our little peers do not pay tuition for kindergarten because they have needs that are special. And our students with needs do not pay tuition, and the little peers do. I don't think we want to break that down so no one can extrapolate from small numbers. The end value is way too low. So that is a moving target, Mike.
9 kindergartners.
I think we expect it to go up to maybe 225. That's our educated guess at this point regarding outstanding contracts and new people who've just taken tours and some incomers.
Excellent. Lori, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
You gave us a little precursor. You ready? We moved this for you so you could be here. We needed to be.
Always right.
I know you are. Mr. McNamee with the finance.
I'm so bad with his reports.
So it looks like we're finishing 24. Most of the payables are in. I've gone through a lot of the accounts, so I'm not anticipating any additional expenses coming in. So that's going to show a surplus for the year of $110,897. With that surplus, we started out the year with the fund accumulated surplus of $704,000. And we agreed to transfer, we're looking to transfer $400,000 out to capital, of which we transferred $300,000 because during the year it was questionable as to what we're going to be doing, whether we're going to make some money or not during the year. So if we take the 300, which we voted to transfer out, we add the 110, we'd be looking at roughly an accumulated surplus of about 515 for the end of the year. What I'm probably going to recommend at a future meeting would be that we transfer the additional 100,000 into capital that we initially had looked at, and also transfer another 100,000, which is the money that we earned this year, into capital. That'll bring down our accumulated surplus to about 315 for basically as of the end of FY24. So that would give us about a fund balance that would be about 3.8% of our budget. So I know that certainly the budget committee would go back to Joe Quinn days where, you know, they didn't want us to have more than 350,000 in that account. So that will bring us down. I mean, we've got lots of capital needs, obviously, going forward, and certainly now's the time to kind of do those because of the housing aid money that we're going to be getting, including some of the incentives. So I think it makes some sense to look at taking some of this money and putting it to capital so that we can maintain the building as we go forward too. So overall, I think, you know, this year was a little bit better than we thought. You know, we got a little less money from Newport County Regional Special Education, but we're going to pick that up next year. And that was offset by the increase in the additional tuition revenue. So at the end of the day, we probably were about maybe 3,800 below what our budget was for revenues versus what we actually came up with. But we had some savings on the expense side. Salaries were down about 44. We tried to get as much as we could into some grant funding. We had some ESSA funds that we were able to spend, so we were able to pull some money out of that. Fringe benefits were up a little. Some of that was that we probably didn't fund all the pension costs that we out of the grant money, so we had a little bit of an increase there. A lot of our special education expenses, we had budgeted, not knowing where things were going to happen. We had OT, PT services budgeted about 62. At 28, and then we had speech and language at 62. That was a combined budget about 90. We actually spent only 37, so there's about 53,000 of savings in that area. But then that fluctuates a little bit from year to year. For example, this year was the first year that we started to get out of district busing for a student that was going out of district. So some of these expenses are now going to start to creep in as we move forward, depending on the mix of the student population. So, you know, we just got to be cognizant of that. But I think having that surplus, having that accumulated surplus in there at that 3 or 4%, having that 300,000 is going to help us in terms of being able to deal with any big fluctuations that we might have. You know, we had a lot of, I think we had a couple more kids at the Met, at the career and technical schools than we anticipated. We were $18,000 over budget in that area. And our out of district placements for special education were up 57,000 versus what we had budgeted. So Portsmouth High was, we budgeted 249. We came in at $1,242,000. So, you know, we were pretty good in that area as well. So I think overall, you know, I was pleased. One of the other areas on materials and supplies, you know, we had budgeted 68.4. I thought we were going to be able to get some of the virtual net metering credits in this year, but you know, I talked to Bob Mushin today as to where that stands too, and it was supposed to be starting, I think, this month or July. So I'm anticipating we'll see some benefit from that in there. And that 68 would also provide a little bit of benefit from the solar. I didn't really encompass that in the budget because I think if we were going to have some savings there, we were going to be looking at kind of setting that aside for capital to kind of do maybe some of the HVAC that's going to be solely needed in this building. But we were $38,000 over budget based on where we ended. Our electricity, we ended up at almost 106,000. We had budgeted 68.4. Normally we would be around 90,000 or so, but looking at the usage, I'm seeing that increase year over year. Because he keeps buying more equipment, so that's the issue. I'm gonna blame him anyway, so.
He just- That was perfectly
So we
timed.
have to, so I think we'll truly see some benefits out of that, solar panel up there, so. But at this point, I'm pretty pleased with, $110,000 as a surplus this year. And, again, I'll come with a recommendation for, the transfer and, you can decide as to which way you want to go, but, those are just, some of my thoughts and keeping that accumulated surplus at a level, giving us funds that we can utilize for capital reserve, because maximizing those with, at least probably a 40%.
You're right, keep it under the 3.5% or 350,000. And make sure that we don't have to go to the taxpayers and the voters with a bond. Continue to flow with the
And the other thing we are working on,
housing aid.
we're gonna do a refinancing on the existing bond. The market's been up and down. I think we got an email just the other day that timing wise, it looks like it may be something we want to do now. I think there's about 10 years left on that bond. They estimate the savings somewhere around 300,000 over the life of the bond over the 10 years, that service that we're paying now. So it does make some sense to move forward with that. So that's something that the town obviously benefits from.
Correct. Question on that.
Reduction of debt service.
Did we move forward? Weren't we going to save like 60,000 a year? Because we were up to date on the 10 years through the bond, and then we had a remaining. Who did I have that conversation? I don't think I had it with you.
Well, at some point, the market probably would have justified that, but it's been all over the place now, so
Yeah.
it's,
But because we're up to par in terms of current, they were going to do us a solid. This is a refinance. This is not the, hey, you guys have paid 10 years, great job. By the way, we're going to lower we're looking to refinance the bond. Or the letter you received is like, hey, by the way, you can refinance this.
well, it all depends on the market. So there was a 10-year period we couldn't do a refinancing.
Correct.
That's why we had to delay it. Had we been able to do it sooner, we probably would have had more savings.
Yeah.
The bond was structured, you couldn't do it. You had to be outside that 10-year window.
Okay.
Because the bond documents didn't allow you to do that. Of course, there are fees associated with it, so that's the net savings. I think it was going to be 300,000 in ride shares, obviously, because they're paying a third of it anyway.
Correct.
So they're going to save as well too. So.
All right. Thank you, Mr. McNamee.
Just a couple of questions.
Go ahead, Michael.
You talk about the potential surplus in the capital, 515 if we were to do the transfers,
That's a surplus in the general fund.
the general fund.
General fund, yeah.
Disconnected, because so it's 515 and then you wanted to transfer you talked about transferring two $100,000 or $100,000 loans.
Correct. That would bring us down to 315, which would bring us down about that'd be 3.8% of our budget, which is a little over 8 million.
So so if we did the two transfers, that's going to put what into the capital, please, the capital after that, if we were to transfer that?
Well, it's going to add the 200, but now we got a lot of money coming out now.
Right.
So there are, on the solar project, we got to file an investment tax credit tax return to get the 30% back. So it's been approved, but you got to file a tax return to get that money back. 75,000 from the state on that solar project will be coming in sooner. That one, I think, is once the project is up and operational, we'll get that back. The housing aid portion of it will be paid out because it wasn't completed as of June 30th, we'll wind up getting it next year in one installment, in two installments in September and March is when they pay housing aid. So the 35% of the net amount after the investment credit and the Rhode Island credit will then come back to us in the following year. So it's a matter of cash flow to be able to do some of these other projects as well too. So, and we put in for the gymnatorium, so we should see some housing aid coming in on that next year as well. We still have 185,000 we got to get from the town on the solar that was approved by the financial town meeting. And there's also about 50 grand that was a match on the grant that we got, Van Buren grant for the gymnatorium that the town owes us as well too. So once all those monies come in, I mean, there are other projects that we're going to look at doing that we need to have that money up front to kind of pay for some of those things. So I can look at a projection on that to see where it's going to shake out.
So I guess I would have two questions. You mentioned the September and March, and you mentioned next year. When you're referring to next year, are you referring to the 2025-26 school year, or are you referring?
So the solar will be 25-26. The gymnatorium will be 24-25. So we'll get half of that housing aid in September and half of it in March this year.
And with the solar, we'll get September and March of 26.
25.
September of 25, March of 26.
Well,
If it's completed by,
we got 185 from the town this year.
yes,
We'll probably get the 75 from the state this year. And then we'll get the remaining housing aid on the solar in 25, 26 to 35% of the remaining balance.
Okay.
I've got those numbers, I can make sure you have those for the next meeting.
I guess the only question I would ask is if we could have a number as of June 30th, 2025, what would we anticipate in our capital budget, if you would, based on all these reimbursements? Because there's a lot of moving parts here that you're going over right now, so that we know, because if you're hypothetically moving 200,000 over and you're saying the 3.7% of the budget, which I understand what you're saying, but what would our number be as of June 30th, 2025? What would you project for that?
You almost have to do it over 3 years, because the way
payments come back.
it's structured, that's the way, and we've got a 5-year plan, so whatever we do, we can get housing aid within that 5-year period. If we think we're gonna go beyond that, we probably have to do another stage 1 and stage 2 with RIDE for projects that we don't think we're gonna be able to fund in that 5-year period. So we got an approval for what, 4.3 million? But that went back to 2022.
Right.
So
We're doing as much as we can.
probably 27, 28. We also submitted to RIDE because the incentives were going to sunset, which would give us probably another 10% return. We did solidify the fact that if we did HVAC, we still qualify for that, and we have to complete it by, I think it's 29.
2029.
So we'll have some opportunity to maximize the return. But the other thing you run up against is the construction inflation. The sooner you do these projects, the less they're gonna cost, and the quicker you're gonna get your return on your money. So that's what all the districts are doing now. So we are seeing a lot of inflation right now as well, but I don't think it's gonna get any better.
HVAC project will be pretty high.
High bar, yeah.
And so we will have to convene a building committee for that. Anything 500,000 or less, you don't. It's all in the stage 2, 350-page document that I shared with you, and that we've all been a part of since 2022, 2023. So we'll probably start that process in January, getting a building committee together. And that project can go on through 2029 for all of those reimbursements. And,
Perfect.
For those, you're gonna wind up doing it stages.
yeah.
And I understand that. I guess it's just easier to swallow when you know what, okay, this is what we're gonna have at this point, and then you can plan for that so that,
Oh, yeah,
so I mean, whether it's done over 1 year, 2 years, 3 or 5.
I can do it like over 3 years, so we'll have it over 25, 26, 27. And depending on what we decide that we're gonna spend it on, we'll have some additional costs in there, but we'll also have housing aid coming back as well too. So,
As long as housing aid is still there, right? So that, who knows when that,
no,
That's going to be there. I don't foresee that going anywhere.
we're going anyway.
Yeah. So,
Mr. McEnany, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your summer. On to the committee reports. Item 7.1, Policy Subcommittee Report. Ms. Hannah.
We haven't met, but I can discuss further the policy that we'll be voting on later.
Sure. Excellent. We will do 7.2, Portsmouth School Committee Liaison Report. That is I. There is nothing to report in terms of Portsmouth High School. The construction should be complete on all of what's going on at Portsmouth, both inside the building and exterior of the building. Much like Lori stated, their entire district is down like 53 kids right now, but they're anticipating to be very close to that number that they carried last year. It's just over 2,000. And then besides that, there is, I believe it's actively being replaced, but they had one special education teacher at the high school level, I think put in their notice and wanted to find a job closer to home. So they will be filling that void, but otherwise it looks like Portsmouth High School is ready to begin. First day of school, everything will be operational. There should be no hiccups.
I've been with Tom at board meetings and programming this summer, and so we're in constant contact.
Yeah, he does a good job.
He's pretty awesome.
Yeah. All right, item 7.3, Ms. Sue Canane, the Wellness Committee Liaison Report.
can I just ask you, you said 2,000 kids?
Yeah, their entire district for all their schools.
All their schools?
Yeah. So even, we were talking about the numbers fluctuating, even in a district like Portsmouth, where you think, oh yeah, great schools, good tax base, great community. They're in flux of being just below what their total student enrollment was last year on day one. So they do, like I said, they do anticipate for it to grow. Go ahead, Sue. Wellness Committee Liaison Report.
Nothing to report. We'll have our first meeting on the 26th of September.
Excellent. That a 3 p.m. meeting?
3:30?
3:30. And then finally, Mr. Michael, Town Recreation Committee Liaison Report.
There's not much to report as well. Our next meeting will be August 26th at 6:30 at Town Council Chambers.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael. On to the action items. I will turn it back over to Ms. Hannah because she is going to be discussing, we're going to try, I think, second read, so we can vote to approve this tonight.
Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead, Hannah. I'll turn it over to you for the Personnel Management Systems Policy.
So we've brought this one up fairly often, I'd say, over the last 4 years that I've been on this committee, just to kind of, update these pay scales with the times. I can turn it over to Lori to speak specifically about the jobs that are seeing a slight bump.
Yeah, so we've been working for the past few years to bring our classroom substitute and TA substitute daily rate up to market rate. And I think we're there, even though there are districts that are higher, there are districts that are lower. And so, when I first started here, I think it was maybe $98 or something like that for a classroom sub. And we have, let it rise gradually, and we're at $145 per day. We've made a shift away from, classroom sub, TA sub, and we're moving towards credential-based, strengths-based assignments. So I think, I discussed this the last meeting, if if a person who has a certification or has a bachelor's degree, if there's no classroom teacher sub position that day, then this person could also be assigned a TA spot and not lose $15, $20 per diem. And so it's just a better way to apportion the great cadre of subs that we have. I'm sure Jack would agree. They're just excellent. And if the teacher is a retired member of, the Wilbur McMahon family here, that person would get $150 per day. TAs who've retired would get $140 per day. Teacher assistant substitute, that stays at $135 per day. But if someone who is qualified to be a classroom sub and like I said, would, takes that open spot that day, that person would get $145, not $135. So we are assigning based on, credentials, but we're not, we're holding harmless the overqualified person who takes a TA position. And that'll induce some of our other subs to grab those spots. So I don't know if I made that very clear.
No, we about this quite a few, as Hannah said, visited this more than once.
So, yeah, a classroom sub, there's, he or she, or they missed their, they missed their Parent Square app alert, and they take a TA position for the day and they don't lose any money. And so, because that position is just as valued and just as important and makes the wheels go round here every day. But we do have an incredible group of subs. We've also upped the rate for the school secretary substitute to 135, and we've pushed it up to an 8-hour day so that we have some coverage if there's during flu season or whatever. And our nurse teacher substitute, we did raise that $300 a few years ago because they are a rare breed when it comes to daily subs. Custodial sub rate is per the custodial rate in the contract, which is a good idea. But we're still having a difficult time finding custodial subs. So if you know anybody, please send them to Carolyn Cedric's way. Building level administrator with certification. In the past, that person received differential between the principal's daily rate and his or their daily rate. And it comes out to maybe, $10. So we feel that generally speaking, if we have someone sub for Jack, that person's here morning, noon, and night. And that person should get $400 above and beyond his, her, or their daily rate as a classroom teacher. And so, yeah, that was pretty bad that the differential was way too narrow. The student support services provider substitutes, $40 per hour. Those are positions like, OT, PT, SLP. So, that is kind of low, but it does, I'm trying to think of what those apply to. Student support services provider substitutes. Well, that was last year, so we didn't go up on that rate. But that was to answer the vacuum left by Newport County Regional Special Ed. And some of that was, on-call behavioral intervention and so on and so forth. The licensed health service provider, physician or dental, we added that, and that's as invoiced, and that is our school physician of record, a school dentist of record, a hygienist sometimes accompanies the dentist. And that's as invoiced, and that's policy-based. We may want to look at that because it's pretty nominal. And that's about it. So this is the second read, so I'm not saying anything that you don't already know. And none of the nomenclature has changed at all. And
No, I think that was, we did most of the language last time.
yeah,
Correct.
that's about it. Something we're always looking at, because I'm sure you're hearing there are staff shortages everywhere. We have no open positions as of today.
No.
We do have.
That's impressive, actually.
Yeah, because we had a retirement and, we had a lot of movement. So, yeah, we have as of today, I mean, one of is not official. I did not sign off on that, but I did get the recommendation from the search committee early this morning at a meeting. And I think we have most of our subs coming back as well.
You're losing one or two, but yeah, that's just.
Maybe you can send them the new pay scale and reconsider.
Don't send them in socket though, my gosh. Like,
Okay.
240 a day in socket.
We do go over all of this.
Right.
The nuts and bolts of, yeah.
Yeah.
Any more discussion?
Question.
Go ahead, Michael.
Under the employee background screen, that first paragraph where it's highlighted failure to report will result in disciplinary action up to and including termination of employment.
Where is that?
Yes, at the bottom of the first paragraph.
Yeah.
It's not new verbiage. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, where it's highlighted. So I'm just curious to what does the school do to check on that on a regular basis? Because it refers to if the employee doesn't, it says that employee shall notify the superintendent of said charges within 48 hours. So how do we know that if that was to happen, what's our fail-safe for our school?
That's a good question. And we are so strict with our background checks. Dan will attest to that. He thinks that we're ridiculous sometimes. No, no. But we do periodically check the state database. HR does, superintendent does. There is a criminal database that we can have access to. And we do, generally speaking, if the person is local, the police will inform us. Police sent us a record last week. So they're not an employee. So we do have a very good communication, relationship with the police department here. And I think like most people that we employ, we know. And so they're known quantities, and we have a very current background check, and we keep those current. So, but if, there's some, not everyone is an honest broker.
Correct.
In society, unfortunately, but I have seen no instances of that here. I don't think I've ever seen an instance in any of the 4 districts I've worked in where someone did not disclose.
Correct. I feel like and Hannah can correct me if I'm wrong, but like when the union is going to ask them to, they're going to have a very similar verbiage in their handbook if you are, charged with anything, to report it to the union. And then from there, I can't imagine it gets multiple levels of.
I don't remember one instance in my career. We could have missed something, who knows? I remember teachers reporting,
I mean, today it's got to be so difficult. I can imagine that there was a time where it was like, hey, maybe nobody will know this happened over county lines or in a different time and place. But now it's like, you can't.
Even demanding BCIs for any vendors that are on site.
And even parents that do, they have to go to the police station that do field trips, anybody that volunteers at the school. So.
Anybody who's employed, as Lori talked about, goes
It's a
through national background check, which is the fingerprinting.
Yeah.
Which is pretty extensive.
Very.
Yeah, we'll know if someone's done something, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Not
you
everyone's.
know, when
an
you're
honest broker, but-
fostering, you have to redo those every 3 years,
I
the
believe it.
fingerprints.
Mhm.
Is that not like, that's not the case here, it's just done once,
No,
however,
you do have to do that every.
And then if there's a break in service of any kind, you have to have it redone.
It's not just one and done. Like, I got one to teach in Massachusetts, I'm gonna have to go do that again in a few years. Like, it's
Correct.
every few years you go and get your background check redone.
Well, it's not quite like
No,
that
it's
in
not
Rhode
like that.
Island. No. No, it's really one and done. And then if there's a break in service, if there's a leave or that sort of
Stepping
thing.
away.
Okay.
Interesting. The casino, I had to do it already.
So what happens in between? I mean, so how are you doing regular checks on people?
National
Why are we
background
checking
check.
people?
You to him like.
We have our ways.
Within the school or something.
Right, right, so if we don't know what everybody's personal lives are and what they do outside of these walls, that's fine. But the thing is that if there's something that's wrong, how do we know that here? Because this refers to criminal activity, so how do we know that?
Yeah, that's-
They have to report it according to this
Within 48
policy
hours.
within 48 hours.
and
And
if they don't,
Well, that's where my initial question started, is that it says that they're supposed to report it within 48 hours.
Right.
Not everybody reports stuff. So my question is, what was the fail-safe for our school? And
Every school in the state, because that is the policy in the entire state.
I mean, are you, Michael, this is too hypothetical.
yeah, I'm not
I
sure what
do you
the
know of,
solution to
like,
this
your-
problem
Yeah.
Do
is.
you know of, like, are you?
Give an
speaking
example of
something
this.
specific?
Yeah, because I'll tell you right now, if somebody let's just use, somebody got arrested. And it was, I mean, they're gonna report it because, and if they're not, then they're gonna be at jeopardy of losing their job. In my experience, when people are held to this level of, hey, if something happens, you gotta tell somebody, they typically do. And in an effort to make sure that they're disclosing it so that when it does go up for review, because it is, there will be disciplinary action in some cases, them coming forth with the information is like a feather in their cap to even keeping their job, if that's a possibility. So to kind of say, hey, I got arrested this weekend, I'm going to try to keep it on the hush and then get found out, you're only submitting yourself to being disciplined at the highest level, which I would imagine suspension up to termination.
Every district I've worked in, there have been people who have self-reported. And not here. And misdemeanors or whatever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Right, if anybody's doing something that's going to prohibit them from being in the presence of minors, it's gonna be on the news, it's gonna be on Little
DCYF
Compton
will be
Happenings,
involved.
it's gonna be, the
Correct.
LCPD will know about it and will tell us. We have access to criminal databases, as Lori has said. I mean, I think that, yeah, I don't know where you wanna go with that one, Mike.
And I'm just curious, so the databases, does that get checked from time to time, randomly?
yes,
I know the Attorney General does.
That's all I want to know.
Yeah.
Are we checking our employees from time to time randomly, what have you? Not, I mean,
it's situational, it's situational. It's not employees. It would be prospective.
And this is about substitutes, let me be clear as well. I don't want any employee who's watching this live stream to think that we are monitoring them for
Never.
possible criminal activity, because that is not the case.
No, we're just talking about the increases here.
well, it's about a policy.
Yeah, but with that, you're talking about something that was not, and everything in green is added.
Right.
Failure to report will result in disciplinary action up to and including termination, which you noted.
And all
Has
of that
already
has to
been
do with
part of
Rhode
this
Island law
policy.
also.
I understand, but it's a question. I mean, we're reviewing the policy. You want us to approve it. I'm asking a
So,
question.
but Michael, so this policy was already approved. Everything that's in green is new and everything that is red is taken out. So the part that you're questioning was already part of the approved policy that you approved.
It doesn't mean because.
I'm just saying, it's like,
Doesn't mean because a policy's been approved and it comes back up for approval again, but you can't ask a question.
I'm not disagreeing, but this is the second read. We're trying to do a vote on this. And you're bringing up something that wasn't edited prior to this policy being brought before this committee again. It's an observation.
We're reviewing the whole policy. I understand what's in green has been changed. I understand that. But doesn't mean if there's a question, if there's something that I see that I have a question about, there's nothing wrong with asking that question.
Correct. You're right. There is nothing wrong with that. Do I have a
Yeah, with all due respect.
motion?
Time.
I move to vote to approve the personnel management systems policy.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We will vote via roll call, Jennifer?
Travis Audi,
Aye.
Hannah Ayotte,
Aye.
Megan Gonzalez,
Aye.
Susan Kinane,
Aye.
Mike Rocha.
The motion carries 5-0. Thank you, everyone. All right, item 8.2, I believe will be shared on the big screen because there is the approval of the WMS and student handbook draft. And Lori has indicated to us that there's only one change
Page, yeah.
as the handbook
Right around 6:30.
is available online, I believe, on our website. And then also to any parents or anyone that reaches out.
Not this one yet, but last year's is still.
Yes, there's a handbook.
I will add this one right after the meeting, once you approve it. I added last year's right after the meeting. It's just the cover page. While Jonathan's doing that, it's a good time for me to talk about this gorgeous, high-end, super expensive furniture that we got for free. We, in spring 2023, about May, the school building authority had a tranche of money and they wanted to dedicate it for social emotional learning supports in facilities in schools. And every district received a sort of menu of items with, prices and so on and so forth. We have these things all over the building. Jonathan is sitting one over there. And the designer of this furniture is famous and sort of pushed into the educational space. We received about $99,000 worth of, it was an entitlement grant. We didn't have to write reams of and get action research that supports that particular initiative. And so it was a gift. We sort of forgot about it. And because it's 15 months later, a huge truck pulled up and a quarter of the gym, huge boxes. And so we put a lot of it in the library. We brought in the designer for the library to show her. She took photos of what she doesn't have to, we don't have to buy now for that renovation up there. And some are in some of the classrooms. You can see all of the fidget stools over there for our kid, their size for 3 years, right on up to 14. Okay, I feel the space, right? Behind you, there's beautiful pieces over there. Our kids are just going to love them.
Yeah, they're going to think it's cool.
Put some in the guidance counselor's office.
Are there more than one of these?
Yes,
Okay.
no, it's just that one.
No.
Yeah, that's what.
I think like 4 of the pads, and then there's another set of risers that form like a semicircle.
Is it-
If you were to tip that outside.
There's another one of these in the library. Gorgeous stuff.
No,
High-end, durable, washable. Love it. And I want to thank Jonathan, because I was away with my husband, and I said, you pick everything out. Pull in Jack, pull in Mary Elizabeth Miller. They did the most amazing job. The colors, the items, all of it. Thank you.
Staff too. We went door to door, we talked to every teacher, we showed them what was available. We asked people what they would find most.
Every teacher had input.
In their classroom, so
Nice.
really everybody in the building had a hand in choosing a lot of the furniture we got.
It was May 2023.
good work.
Thank you, Jonathan.
The only changes on the handbook, we adjusted some time to the lunches and the class periods during the set time. That is basically it, really nothing dramatic.
Just all the same.
Yeah.
It's good when that happens.
Starts and finishes at the same time.
Last year was the major overhaul of this handbook for the International Baccalaureate framework. That was a lot of work. Grading, all of it.
Excellent. Does anyone have any questions? I will consider a motion to approve the 2025 Wilbur McMahon student handbook.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Jennifer will vote via roll call.
Travis Audi,
Aye.
Hannah Ayat,
Aye.
Megan Gonzalez,
Aye.
Susan Kinane,
Aye.
Mike Rocha.
Aye.
Excellent. The handbook is approved. We look forward to seeing the newest
Tomorrow.
rendition. Thank you. And then finally, item A3,
I'll handle that one.
this is the employee handbook draft.
And I have to update that cover, but I did that cover. Just go down and just to the highlighted, if you could do Control F and just put wellness. Wellness Committee. Well, he's finding that section, the only section that changed. Nope, keep on going, should be, it should be highlighted. But it's coming up. Carolyn and I we've developed an HR department that is very responsive to staff needs. And she has been absolutely amazing, like just a game changer. She just finished her bachelor's degree, her master's degree. She has an MBA now. Oh, maybe I have the wrong one up. But the only change in the employee handbook, and I think we're one of the few districts that, really take this handbook seriously. We were the first ones to create one for the district. When we go to apply to the trust for various grants, they kick them back to us and say, well, wait a minute, you don't have a staff wellness committee. You have a district wellness committee, which is sort of a subset of the school committee and the community, representation is there, but you don't have a staff wellness committee. So we developed a staff wellness committee. When I say we, I mean Carolyn. And she invited members of the staff, professional staff, paraprofessional staff. She has a really good cross-section. And they came up with the name and focus. That's how we ended up with the twice weekly exercise classes, fitness classes taught by Jennifer Segala. That's how we're coming up with, we redid the staff room. They don't have a meeting room per se, but they do have a prep room. We're working on getting them a staff room. We're going to reapportion a piece of the library. And there is no meeting room in this building for staff. There's just that one prep room that also houses the only 2 bathrooms for staff. We put sort of noisemakers in those, facilities to make things more private. That's the staff wellness that came up with all that. They also came up with a sort of curtain that we've put in there that separates the lavatories from the rest of the preparation room where people are preparing food, photocopying, so on and so forth. What other things do they want to do? Well, we've always had a lot of fitness stuff going. So now that we have that in place for this school year, we will have a better chance of accessing more grants from them. And so the trust, they raised the bar and we met it. Oh, there it is. Thank you so much. So the new committee they voted or whatever, and it's the WMS Workplace Wellness Committee. They didn't want it staff wellness. They wanted it workplace wellness. I think it's a really good name. Whose goal is to promote well-being by providing opportunities for individuals to cultivate healthy habits and lifestyles through education, engagement, and support. And it's been a real game changer for our staff. We've had our summer, they're driving here, some of them from Newport, for the fitness classes twice a week. And so it's like, why didn't we think of this on our own? Just sort of beating ourselves up over that. And it has been in place for maybe 6 months, and it has already been a game changer. And so the staff prep room now has plants in it. Everything has been rearranged. There's new furnishings. Thank you, Jonathan, for moving some of those great work surfaces there. And it's all about them, and it's all about the workplace. And so we were pretty upset when the trust turned down a few of our proposals. And then when we asked them for some actionable feedback, what are we doing wrong? They said, you're doing nothing wrong, but you're missing a staff-focused wellness committee. And because the trust is about staff and EAP, employee assistance program, and all that we added 5 years ago. So that's all it is. That's the only change. And it's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, no, especially if we can get grants now and not get,
Yes.
like you said, we were getting it kicked back and not knowing why.
Right.
Now we know why, and we've made the adjustment.
Yep.
Excellent. I will consider a motion to approve the Little Compton School Department Wilbur McMahon Employee Handbook. Oh, no, it's not, we're not voting tonight. It's just a draft?
It says, consider, discuss, and vote to approve the 2024-2025 draft. So I move to vote to approve the 2024,
It's not a
2025
policy or anything.
Yeah.
Little Compton School Department Wilbur McMahon School Employee Handbook draft.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we'll vote via roll call, Jennifer.
Travis Audi,
Aye.
Hannah Ayotte,
Aye.
Megan Gonzalez,
Aye.
Susan Kinane,
Aye.
Mike Rocha,
No. Okay.
It doesn't say second
Four,
reading.
4-1.
That it's not a
It's
policy, that you should have voted no for 8.2 if that's how you feel as well, because that also wasn't the policy. We do this every single year, Mike.
If I may, I'll clarify, Mike. The state does not require that school committees approve the handbook for students or staff. It is a practice. It's a best practice that we loop you in.
Correct. So we're all on the same page.
Content that is public and also is actionable if a student steps outside the bounds of the handbook or a staff member does. So it's a best practice. It's not
Yes, thank you.
a state regulation or.
Thank you.
high regulation.
Motion carried, Jennifer, 4-1. Do we have any member requests for administration or legal counsel? I know Sean's not here tonight, but any questions for anyone?
I do for administration. Where do we stand with the water for the school right now? Because we understand that there's some issues right now.
Oh, sure. So we had 2 planned outages last week, and they went much longer than anyone expected. So when that happens, the water pressure goes below 20 pounds per square inch of pressure. And so we were down to 5. When that happens, Chris Osborne, my name is on the water system, and he owns the VSSD license. He is licensed to support a small system, water system. And that triggers our having to contact the Department of Health and say, we've had a drop in water pressure. When there's a drop in water pressure, we have to flush the system, which is a week-long process. We start with not at the wellhead, you start at where every issue with the water system is different. So sometimes you do have to start at the wellhead, but this time we did not. We had to start at where the water enters into the building, into the retention tank, and then the pressure boosters. And so as of this afternoon, we did get the chlorine all the way up to the bleach, all the way up to Town Hall. And that's with Secundit Plumbing and Chris going up with vials and so forth, flushing. By the end of the day, Chris reported back to me, and we had to report our progress to Rido this morning. He reported back to me, there's still readings up there. So it's not really a boil order, but the boil order is still on. So now we're at the mercy of the Department of Health. Chris, once the water is clear at Town Hall, because we service this building, maintenance barn, Oddfellows Hall, Community Center, and Town Hall. Once Town Hall is clear, the water, then he has to run the vials up to Rido, and then we're at their mercy regarding when they will test. Obviously, they know we're a school, and they know we're butting up against the beginning of the school year. We will definitely make it under that wire. The care and control of the water system is very complex and time intensive. It's weekly meetings between me and Chris Osborne Jr. and all the readings that we get from Ryan. So here we are. So we have water. The whole Commons has water. The Commons did not have water, every building, Tuesday and Friday. Thursday was supposed to be the second planned outage. But something happened, and like anything else, the best laid plans. And so it was the rain date Friday. That outage was supposed to be just a few hours, but we're dealing with the utility as well. National Grid, I'm sorry, Rhode Island Energy, the name changed. And so they did not dedicate a crew to us on Friday. They did on Thursday, which was the date that was scheduled. And so Friday, we had to wait for their emergency crew in the East Bay. And so that was a 10-hour outage. It was supposed to be 2. So already our pressure was low and it triggered a RIDO call. Either way, we would have had to do the flush. And so I think we're the only school in the state that runs the town's water system. Make that very clear. And it's either, it's either routine stuff or it's something cataclysmic. We did get a grant, about 5 years ago and we brought someone in from the EPA and he was on site for a while and he did draft and finalize the first operations and maintenance manual. So we've had no flushings since that grant and that gentleman came in. And this is the first time. And so it's a pain. And so I know it did impact. We had little kids at Makers, LC Makers. So I visited there. I visited the community center and town hall. There was nothing we could do about it. They were much longer than ever anticipated and that pressure went way down.
But we'll be back online.
Yes, everyone has.
Everyone's on, but
We had no electricity here either.
and then we don't,
Couldn't even print the no.
correct, we don't anticipate another power down, do we?
Newport Renewable says no. I mean, this is part of the.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand, but I'm just saying between now and,
Not at all.
Okay.
However, that said, when I had the architect on site to look at a leak kindergarten with all this rain, I did ask her to go back and talk to her engineers about a discrete power source for the water delivery system so that we could stay online even if the generator fit, because the generator is part of the system, so we couldn't use that, obviously, just in case if a generator fit. So now we know what we want to avoid in the future. And so we would say it's a bad for good. And so she has a plumbing engineer, did not know one of those existed, who will be looking at some redundancy, a discrete power source separate from our generator.
Yeah.
For future.
Excellent. Michael, you good?
Yeah, that was one of my concerns. So if you're looking at that.
We're good for school, yeah.
We're affecting other buildings in their programs right now because they don't have water to use, drinkable water.
That's happened several times in the past. And this is the first time in 5 years. It just couldn't have been avoidable. It was not avoidable it could not have been helped because of the length of the planned outages. And the fact that we did not have a discrete separate power backup for the booster system. Of course, Jonathan wants to build a huge cistern and use gravity-fed water when it's down, but it's all good. Very maniac. See those up in Maine. But I think some sort of battery piece. I've met with Bob Mushin about it and Tony, just on the fly. It wasn't a planned meeting at all. To see if that would work, because a regular generator won't work. Just to hook it up to that system is too powerful.
So we don't know when so the testing won't happen until the water is clear at the town hall. I understand that?
Right, clear of the chemical flush. And that'll likely be tomorrow. And then Chris will head up to Providence. Go for it.
I talked to him at the very end of the day. I think he was having some success with talking with the Department of Health to have one of their testers come down here and use the sample, which would be a much faster.
Oh, thank God. They know we're a school, so we are begging,
They're going to do us a little bit of a favor if they can expedite that process to us.
Yes.
Thank Thank you, Jonathan.
Superintendent might have accidentally filled her water bottle with some, I forgot, and
Proceed with caution.
I'm still standing.
If there is no other questions, I will consider a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor?